The morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen window as Elizabeth Griffin went about her usual coffee-making routine. Her two-story home in the upscale neighborhood was wrapped in morning silence. The spacious white kitchen, with its neat rows of stainless steel appliances, featured a marble-topped island counter where a high-end French coffee maker stood proudly. Family photos adorned the walls, capturing smiles of her husband James, daughter Lily, and herself. In their Christmas photo, the three wore matching sweaters as they huddled by the fireplace, radiating pure joy. Next to it hung a picture from Lily's second birthday party, showing the little girl beaming in her pink dress before a massive birthday cake. As a real estate agent, Elizabeth handled high-end properties throughout Connecticut. Her unique approach, known as the Griffin style, had earned her the trust of wealthy clients, maintaining her position as the company's top performer for 5 consecutive years. While balancing work and motherhood wasn't easy, her meticulous nature and strong will helped her excel at both. Her husband James, a 36-year-old surgeon at St. Mary's General Hospital, had graduated top of his class from Harvard Medical School. Showing promise since his residency, he had already secured the position of Associate Chief of Surgery at just 36. Behind his gentle demeanor lay ambition. He'd received numerous awards for his contributions to community healthcare and was hailed by local media as a rising star in medicine. His influence at the hospital grew steadily alongside his reputation in the medical community. Then there was the newest family member, 2-year-old Lily. An angel-like child with golden curls and blue eyes, she had a distinctive heart-shaped birthmark behind her left ear. Elizabeth considered this birthmark, affectionately called Angel's Kiss, since birth, a gift from God. Lily's friendly nature endeared her to neighbors, especially the Robertsons across the street, who doted on her like their own granddaughter. Every Sunday, the family of 3 would spend time at the nearby park. James would push Lily on the swings while Elizabeth took photos. Afterward, they'd enjoy brunch at their favorite cafe. These simple moments defined Elizabeth's life. But 1 year ago, everything changed. When Lily was rushed to the hospital with a sudden high fever, James insisted on a private room, claiming it was for the best treatment. Days later came the shocking announcement: death due to sudden deterioration. When Elizabeth requested a final viewing, she was denied, citing risk of infection. The burial was rushed, and Elizabeth never got to see her daughter's face one last time. Since that day, Elizabeth's world lost its color. James began spending more time away from home, citing conferences and research, eventually suggesting a job transfer. Now they lived practically separate lives. Even during his weekend visits, their once warm conversations had turned purely practical. Every day, Elizabeth would weep in Lily's second-floor bedroom, touching her daughter's clothes and toys. The pink-themed room remained untouched. The bookshelf still held Lily's favorite stories, including Goodnight Moon, and her beloved teddy bear sat on the bed. Her sense of loss deepened daily, the pain of losing her daughter never easing. Yet in her heart, a nagging doubt began to grow. The peculiar circumstances of Lily's death. Her husband's sudden change in behavior. Above all, her maternal instinct warned that something wasn't right. One unusually hot Connecticut night, Elizabeth was reading in her bedroom. In her hands was Goodnight Moon, Lily's favorite book, which she'd read every night since losing her daughter. James was still away at his temporary posting, having tersely informed her he had to work over the weekend. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. At this hour, through the peephole, she saw two uniformed police officers. Middle-aged men with stern expressions and an air of tension. One was tall, the other shorter, but both carried themselves like veterans of 20-plus years. Pulling a cardigan over her silk nightgown, Elizabeth opened the door. The first thing she noticed was the sweat on their foreheads. Despite it being August, the tension in the air was palpable enough to make them perspire at this hour. Her heart began racing. The porch light cast grave shadows across their faces. "Sorry for the late hour, Mrs. Griffin." The taller officer spoke in a lowered voice. His badge read, Detective Michael Collins. "Yes, that's me. Is something wrong?" Elizabeth felt her voice trembling. Over the past year, she had imagined such late-night visits countless times, always hoping for new information about Lily. "We believe your daughter was found abandoned on the platform at Central Station. We'd like to ask you some questions about her." In that moment, something clicked in Elizabeth's mind. An inexplicable anxiety coursed through her body. An ice-cold intuition enveloped her. "My daughter died a year ago." Elizabeth found herself saying these words, driven by an impulse she couldn't understand. The words flowed naturally, as if guided by someone else. The officers' expressions changed instantly. They exchanged glances, and the younger officer began radioing someone. Static crackled in the quiet night air. "Would you mind coming to the scene with us?" Detective Collins spoke carefully, choosing his words. His voice carried a special tension she'd never heard before in her experiences. "What do you mean?" Elizabeth's voice trembled more. She unconsciously gripped Goodnight Moon tighter in her hands. "There's something we need you to verify." No further explanation came. However, the officer's demeanor suggested something significant. Elizabeth's mind went blank as she got into the patrol car. As they left the familiar upscale neighborhood, the car proceeded without sirens through streets with flickering streetlights. Though the same nighttime scenery passed by the window, everything felt surreal. Intermittent radio communications broke the silence. The officers spoke in hushed tones, but she couldn't make out their words. Her anxiety grew with each passing moment. Arriving at Central Station, they found several patrol cars and an ambulance already there. The usually bustling station plaza was nearly empty at this late hour. Police tape cordoned off an area, and uniformed officers and paramedics moved about as Elizabeth was led inside. Inside the station, an unusual tension hung in the air. The fluorescent lights seemed colder than usual. Her steps up the stairs toward the platform felt uncertain, as if walking in a dream. When they reached the platform, Elizabeth saw a small figure surrounded by paramedics. A little girl wrapped in a yellow blanket. Golden curls shimmering under the station lights. And the decisive feature, a heart-shaped birthmark behind the left ear. A face identical to Lily's. Lily. Elizabeth's voice quivered, filled with a year's worth of emotion. The little girl timidly raised her face. Those large blue eyes held a familiar light. "Mommy." At that faint response, Elizabeth's knees buckled. A police officer rushed to support her as she nearly collapsed. The child before her was undoubtedly her daughter. The expressions, gestures, voice, all exactly as she remembered. Yet this was her daughter who had supposedly died a year ago. A chill ran down Elizabeth's spine, unlike anything she'd felt even in midsummer. Why was Lily here? Who had abandoned her here? And most importantly, what had happened during this past year? Lily had grown slightly. Her hair was longer. She wore unfamiliar clothes. Everything indicated she had been living somewhere during this past year. Countless questions began swirling in Elizabeth's mind. And this was just the entrance to a terrifying truth. The night wind swept across the platform, silently watching over the mother and daughter's reunion. Despite the late hour, the police interrogation room buzzed with unusual tension. Under Detective Collins' direction, emergency DNA testing procedures were initiated. Elizabeth held her daughter tightly. "Mrs. Griffin, let me confirm something," a young female detective gently spoke. The date of Lily's reported death was August 20, 2024. Elizabeth nodded. That date was forever etched in her heart. Death confirmed at St. Mary's General Hospital. The surgeon was. The detective looked down at her documents. Dr. Robert Campbell. And the death certificate was finally approved by Dr. James Griffin, your husband. Elizabeth's body shook. The moment she heard her husband's name, her vague anxieties began taking concrete form. Burial the next day. The detective's brows furrowed. Burial within 24 hours is quite unusual. In the adjacent room, a child psychologist carefully interviewed Lily. With remarkable composure for a 3-year-old, Lily spoke about her year at the doctor's house. Simultaneously, at the hospital, another investigation team began reviewing records. "This is strange," a veteran detective frowned. "There are clear contradictions between the admission records and death certificate." At 3:15 p.m. on August 20th, the recorded time of death, nursing records showed Lily's temperature and pulse were normal. Furthermore, there were medication records from that night. This signature here. The detective peered at the aged record. Samantha Williams. Night shift nurse in the pediatric ward. Large screens at investigation headquarters displayed hospital security camera footage. A figure leaving through the pediatric ward's back entrance late on August 20th, clearly carrying a child-sized form. This is. The video analyst zoomed in. Dr. Griffin and Nurse Williams. Further investigation revealed shocking facts. Samantha Williams, 28, had worked in the pediatric ward for 2 years. Soon after meeting James Griffin, they had begun a secret relationship. Since last fall, Dr. Griffin has been regularly traveling to New York, reported the analyst. And each time, Nurse Williams also took leave. Credit card records provided more evidence. Luxury hotel in Manhattan. Dinner for two. Expensive purchases at women's boutiques. Regular withdrawals have been confirmed from Dr. Griffin's savings account, explained the financial investigator. The destination is a luxury residential area in Long Island. At that address, they found a new mansion. And in its basement, they discovered something astonishing. A child's room. Toys. Children's clothes. And Lily's medical records. It had all been planned. James had decided to leave his wife and start a new life with his lover. To do so, he had faked his child's death and raised her in secret. Elizabeth quietly wept as she heard all the facts. Why now? The answer was in Samantha's cell phone. I can't take it anymore. Raising that child is harder than I imagined. This isn't the new life you promised me. This was the final message sent 2 hours before the abandonment. At the hospital, more accomplices were identified. Doctors who forged the death certificate. Nurses who falsified records. And funeral home staff who staged the burial. All had participated in the crime in exchange for substantial payments from James. An arrest warrant has been issued for Dr. Griffin, announced Detective Collins. We're heading to the conference venue in Manhattan now. At that moment, Elizabeth's phone rang. The screen displayed James. Tension filled the interrogation room. Please answer, Detective Collins said quietly. The conversation will be recorded. Elizabeth took a deep breath and pressed the answer button. Elizabeth, I hear Lily has been found. James's voice was surprisingly calm, as if he had anticipated his long-held secret would be revealed. The air in the interrogation room froze. The blue-white light from the monitoring screens highlighted Elizabeth's tense expression. Why did you do this? Elizabeth's voice trembled. In the next room, Lily was drawing pictures with the child psychologist. After several seconds of silence, James began speaking in a low voice. You might not understand. But this was all for a better future. Those words made Elizabeth feel an anger she almost couldn't suppress. A better future. For whom? Her voice overflowed with emotions she had been holding back. For my career. I couldn't expect promotion at St. Mary's. I was stuck being a mid-level doctor forever. But St. Joseph's Hospital in Manhattan wanted me. As their new chief of pediatrics. $800,000 annual salary, unlimited research funds. This was the chance to change our lives. On the other end of the phone, James sighed deeply. Samantha understood my thinking. She was someone who supported my ambitions. Unlike you. You were always satisfied with an ordinary life. Elizabeth felt her vision turn red. For that, you faked your daughter's death. Was that all Lily meant to you? Don't get emotional, Elizabeth. This was all calculated. Lily was raised in the best environment. Private lessons 3 times a week, French tutor, plans for Swiss international school in the future. James's voice wavered slightly. Just. Samantha gave up sooner than expected. She lacked the resolve to be a mother. Lately, she'd been saying every day that she couldn't handle caring for Lily. Detective Collins silently nodded to Elizabeth, signaling her to keep the conversation going. Investigators were desperately working to pinpoint James's location. So for this past year, Lily was? Elizabeth asked, fighting back tears. At the house in Long Island. I renovated the basement, installed soundproofing. No need to worry about neighbors. The housekeeper Maria took care of her. James suddenly stopped. Wait. How do you know so much detail? At that moment, there was a commotion outside the room. FBI. Don't move. The same voice could be heard through James's phone. Then, sounds of something falling. Sounds of struggle. Then clearly, James Griffin, you're under arrest for kidnapping, medical record forgery, and insurance fraud. Elizabeth hung up. She sank deeply into her chair with an exhausted expression, and the emotions she had been suppressing suddenly burst forth. But it wasn't tears, it was intense anger. As the investigation progressed, the full extent of the case came to light. James had planned everything perfectly. First, he secured collaborators within the hospital. Led by Dr. Campbell, 5 doctors participated in the deception. James paid them using funds obtained through fraudulent medical insurance claims. Nurses also collaborated in exchange for promotions and money. The funeral home staff was instructed to bury an empty coffin, paid triple the usual fee. The insurance payout was set to James as the beneficiary, completely unknown to Elizabeth. The Long Island house was purchased with this insurance money. However, the seemingly perfect plan had an unexpected miscalculation: Samantha. Initially, she had dreamed of a new life with James. But the reality of raising someone else's child proved more challenging than imagined. As her stress with Lily grew, she finally reached her limit. That day, Samantha took Lily to Central Station. Security cameras captured her releasing Lily's hand on the platform and walking away without looking back. Lily was left alone, standing still for 30 minutes until station staff found her. That child kept waiting for her mama, the station attendant testified to police. She seemed to believe someone would come for her. Sometimes she'd look up at passing people, then look down again. But the whole time, she held on to her picture book preciously. The investigation revealed more shocking facts. James had repeatedly committed similar medical insurance fraud. Creating fictitious patients and billing for expensive treatments, the total exceeded $5 million. Evidence of drug theft from the hospital was also discovered, with traces of narcotic painkillers being sold on the black market. These facts prompted the FBI to join the investigation. The arrest in Manhattan made national news. Prominent doctor arrested for kidnapping and insurance fraud, faked child's death to plan new life. Shocking case rocks medical community. As headlines danced across screens, Elizabeth held Lily tightly. Mother and daughter sat quietly together in a police station room. It's okay now. I'll never let anyone take you away. Lily nodded slightly against her mother's chest. And then, words Elizabeth hadn't heard in a year warmly filled her heart. "Good night, Moon, read it with me, Mommy." The judge's voice echoed through the marble courthouse hallway. The prosecution had sought maximum sentences, considering the case's severity and social impact. Defendant James Griffin is hereby sentenced to 20 years imprisonment and revocation of medical license for kidnapping, insurance fraud, medical record forgery, and drug law violations. Elizabeth quietly listened from the courtroom gallery. Beside her sat Laura Jenkins, the lawyer who had supported her throughout these 3 months. Defendant Samantha Williams is sentenced to 12 years imprisonment and revocation of nursing license for kidnapping and child abuse. Sentences for accomplices followed. Dr. Campbell and other complicit doctors received 10 years each, nurses 5 years, and funeral home staff 3 years. Additionally, substantial compensation was ordered from the hospital. The trial process revealed issues shaking the entire medical community. Power structures in large hospitals, inadequate whistleblower systems, flaws in medical insurance systems. This case cast a spotlight on these issues. "Your testimony has saved many lives," Laura said. Indeed, the case triggered the discovery of similar fraud at multiple hospitals. Whistleblower hotlines were established, and third-party audit systems were strengthened. Elizabeth and Lily moved to a quiet residential area on the opposite side of town. Their new home, surrounded by white picket fences, featured a swing set and slide in the yard at Lily's request. The neighbors warmly welcomed the two. "You'll be starting kindergarten soon with the girl next door," Elizabeth said, gently stroking Lily's hair. Recovery would take time. But with weekly counseling and community support, they were moving forward step by step. Elizabeth's experience became a beacon of hope for others in similar situations at local support groups. She established Angels of Hope, a victim support organization, dedicating herself to preventing similar incidents and supporting victims. Meanwhile, James faced rigorous rehabilitation programs in prison. All his requests for visits were denied through his lawyer. His ambitions slowly faded within the cold cell walls. Samantha served her time in women's prison, confronting her crimes daily. Their relationship had completely crumbled immediately after arrest. "Hey, Mommy," Lily asked one day. "What is it? Can I change the wallpaper in my room?" Elizabeth found new hope in such casual conversations. Despite her trauma, Lily was definitely looking forward. Together, they chose new wallpaper with small stars scattered across a soft pink background. 2 years later, Elizabeth published Pursuing Truth: A Mother's Love Exposes Medicine's Dark Side. In it, she detailed the medical industry's reality, twisted by power and greed, and one mother's fight against it. The book quickly became a bestseller, with movie rights sold. But for Elizabeth, the most precious thing was the small promise she shared with Lily every night. "Good night, Moon. Good night, Mommy." Those words would never be lost again. Moonlight streaming through the window gently illuminated the peaceful sleeping faces of mother and daughter. There was nothing left to fear.